Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with part 6 of What If Deku Had Divine Dividing. And I think I'm gonna wrap this up in like these last two parts, part 6 and part 7. So yeah, you guys really enjoyed this series, so I'm gonna end it off with a bang. So part 7, look out for that, it's gonna be lit. And yeah, let's get right into the what if. So, in the last part, we went over the aftermath of the Hosu incident, and the students had their final exams. Izuku, while he was preparing for the training camp, actually got his provisional hero license, allowing him to do hero work. So, that's where we're gonna start. We start on the bus ride to the training camp, and people are there playing around on the bus, they're doing whatever, and they finally reach their stop on the side of a cliff. People think they're just out there to stretch, and while no one was looking, Aizawa dips behind the bus, but no one sees him. He gets out of the way, and as soon as he does, a massive avalanche gets thrown at them without any warning. And they might be wondering why they're doing this. This is kind of dangerous. Well, Izuku is a licensed hero, so they really want to test his abilities. So, Izuku uses a barrier to stop the avalanche, as well as Rias. They do this, stop the avalanche completely. And seeing this, Pixie Bob comes out of the forest. She uses her quirk to create some mud monsters, and they start fighting Izuku. So he has to drop the barrier, and him and Rias start flying over the forest, while everyone is forced to run through while being attacked. So after flying over the forest, because they fly really fast, they get there and there's no one there, no teachers, no one. So they go looking around, seeing what they can find, and they find the sleeping areas. So they chill out for a bit, but eventually get bored. There's nothing really to do. So Izuku goes to stand up to check if anyone has arrived, but Rias jumps on his back and starts kissing his neck. Izuku, not wanting to back down, he puts her down on the futon and goes over on all fours. He leans in and starts kissing everywhere, on her neck, on her lips, biting her ears, and just everything. He starts moving his hands lower and lower, but then Aizawa comes into the room. And he comes in, he's saying, "Yo, anyone in here?" And he sees them and he says, I'ma just go. And he shuts the door slowly. Rias and Izuku, they're shocked out of their minds seeing Aizawa, and they get cleaned up, then they go out back to the camp area, the main area of the camp. So they go and see the Wild Wild Pussycats and Aizawa, and the Wild Wild Pussycats, they're saying, "Wow, you guys finished so soon," they're complimenting them. And Tiger walks up to Izuku and he thinks, "Oh, you think you're strong because you finished quick?" And Izuku he doesn't even know what's this guy's problem. But Pixie Bob, seeing Deku, he's like, "Tiger, get away from him." And she goes up to Izuku and she says, "Oh, you seem quite strong, to take on my creations like that, her mud monsters." And she starts feeling up his chest, and Rhea, seeing this, is not gonna take it at all. She creates a barrier between Pixie Bob and Izuku and pushes her away and runs up to Izuku, hugging him. So while the rest of the Wild Wild Pussycats, go to look for Pixie Bob because she went flying, the class finally arrived and Ida was holding Pixie Bob bridal style. So the Wild Wild Pussycats, they take her to go rest and they start making some food. While they were doing that, Izuku sees a kid standing by himself. He goes to talk to the kid and he says, "Hey kid, what's your name?" And the kid looks up to Izuku and tries kicking him in the balls, but Izuku got those reflexes. He dodges this and says, "Nope, too slow." And the kid turns around and sees Izuku waving his finger, and he's so confused, how did he get behind him? So Izuku continues and says, "So you're not gonna tell me your name?" And the kid, he looks down in defeat and says, "It's Kota." And Izuku is saying, "Oh, that's a nice name, kid. But why are you standing out here by yourself? You can sit with us." And Kota says, "No, I hate heroes," and runs away. No, Izuku was about to go after him, but Mandalay stops him and, she explains how his parents were killed by villains and left him all alone, so that's why he hates heroes. Izuku, hearing this, just scoffs and thinks how dumb this kid is, and, and it just thinks he's the least of his worries, so he goes to eat with Reyes and some of his other friends. And yeah, they go and shower, and of course Mineta tries climbing the shower walls, but before he can even do that, Izuku divides his power only once, leaving him unable to even to walk. So the next day rolls around and they do their quirk training. Everyone's training doesn't really change except Izuku, who meditates. He's trying to talk to the previous holders of his sacred gear because Albion, he told him about it previously. So he appears in his mindscape, and it's a room surrounded by people sitting down in grey cloaks. He walks up to one of them and he looks lifeless. The person next to him was a female and she had the same expression, just cold, lifeless eyes. And he went around to see that everyone just had this expression on their face, and he then, seeing that, these people wouldn't be any help, he starts checking the room itself, and towards the edge of the room was a door. He tries opening, but it wouldn't even budge. Then he heard light footsteps coming from behind him. Izuku ducks, and this really bulky guy flies over him. This guy turns into a fighting position and starts fighting Izuku, but all his shots were being dodged. And Izuku, using a bit of demonic energy, coats his fists and punches the guy in the stomach, causing him to fall to his knees. And as he was about to land another punch, a female voice says, "Stop." Izuku turns to see a woman dressed in a long purple dress and had long blonde hair. She walks to Izuku and, she says, "Seems our newest successor is quite strong, don't you think, Balthazar?" And as, this guy being the person who was fighting Izuku, who was shirtless on the ground, he got up and says, "Yeah, I haven't fought in centuries, so I got a bit rusty." So the woman, who I'll call Beth, says, "Well, I guess you came here for advice or power, or maybe even just to see me." And she starts walking up to Izuku. But before she could do anything, he quickly says, "No, just the first two." And Beth says, oh well, come with me." So he follows Beth and Balthazar to the center of the room. There, she presses down on the small table and reveals a small box. She gives the box to Izuku and says, "Open it once you're back in your normal world." So hearing this, Izuku gets dragged out of his mindscape by Albion and the box appears in his hand. He opens it and he got what he came there for, for advice, which would lead him to even more power. Izuku got knowledge of transformations above his scale mail armor, Juggernaut Drive, a form so powerful that if he stays in it long enough, he'll go insane. But in order to use it, Izuku has to ingest demon blood. The reason for this is while he's using it so that it doesn't shorten his lifespan. With the demon blood, especially someone of a high class demon, Izuku will have immense magical power, so it would siphon off that instead of his lifespan. So knowing this, Izuku knows the right person to ask. So when everyone finishes their training, Izuku goes to ask Reyes to just loan him some blood, just a normal conversation. But before he could do anything, Pixie Bob runs up to the group and starts jumping around the students, complimenting them on, their training, and then brings up the test of courage. So everyone goes off back to the camp to get a change of clothes because they were training all day and it was becoming nighttime. At the camp, Izuku realized that he hadn't seen, that kid Kota since the other day. So while everyone was eating, he flew up into the air trying to look for him. So while he was looking, Izuku started seeing blue flames burning all the trees in the forest. And soon everyone at the camp realized this. Izuku now frantically looking for Kota because he thinks these are villains. So he starts looking around and finally sees Kota on the edge of a cliff and a large figure coming from behind him. Izuku wasted no time turning into his scale mail armor and flies top speed at Muscular, kicking him in the gut and sending him into a wall. Now, with Muscular out of commission for a while, Izuku goes to take Kota back to the camp, but Muscular slowly crawls out of the hole in the wall. Izuku activates One for All, sending it into his wings, and he flew at the speed of light, bringing Kota back to the camp and flying back to Muscular. And the speed of light, this is literally like turning your light on and off. So they just think of that. So Muscular, now knowing how strong Izuku is just from that one kick, goes full strength, amplifying his muscle fibers until they can't even be contained by his skin. He dashes at Izuku, punching his armor, denting it, but Izuku punches him upwards in his gut, sending him into the air. While in midair, he starts dividing Muscular's power and he came crashing down into the ground. But Muscular didn't stay down. His muscle fibers appear back on his skin and he tries swinging at Izuku, but he was dodging all of his blows. Izuku realized that even when he divided Muscular, he still put on more muscle fibers, but not instantly. So after another one of Muscular punches missed, Izuku divides his power. Then before his new muscle fibers appear, he punched Muscular with 60% of One for All right in the chest, breaking his ribs and puncturing one of his lungs. So while struggling to breathe, Muscular falls to the ground, gasping for air, and he blacks out from lack of oxygen. So Izuku leaves Muscular and flies back to the camp. When he gets there, he sees an unconscious Pixie Bob on the ground, and Tiger and Mandalay were barely hanging on. Izuku flies down quickly, taking down Spinner and Magne, who with just a punch in the gut because they weren't expecting him. Mandalay tells, she's on the ground, she's beaten up, but she tells Izuku to try and find Ragdoll because Spinner, she basically, Spinner threatened Ragdoll's life, basically. So Izuku, and she tells him to protect the students. So Izuku flies off above the forest and he sees through the trees, and he's looking, searching, trying to find anyone, and then he sees a girl in a student outfit holding a knife. He flies down and he's expecting to quickly punch her and knock her out, but she was pretty agile. She dodges the punch and got on top of Izuku and tries stabbing his armor. Izuku simply used One for All to buff his half-dimension ability, shrinking all her knives out of existence. Then grabs the girl and throws her to the ground and divides her power until she's unable to move. So he goes on and rescues Ragdoll since Toga didn't get to her first, and brings her back to the camp. Izuku, he just beat up a few villains and rescued Ragdoll. So he's feeling that he is having too much, not really luck, but he's feeling that something's off, that he's forgetting something. And then it hits him. Rias. He rushes back into the forest to search everywhere and to find Rias, and also Mandalay told him about they were here for Bakugo. So he's looking around but he can't find her, and after around 5 minutes of searching, he sees a group of his friends up ahead and they were all frozen looking at something. He goes up to them to see what they were looking at, and it was Rias and Bakugo being held up by one of Moonfish's blade-like tooth. He shoved it through their shoulder and Izuku was horrified. As he goes to fly up to them, he falls out of his scale mail armor and because he was in it for way too long, but his light wings were still active. He flies up again, but Mr. Compress appears behind the two and turned them into marbles. And Izuku was trying to grab him, but he drops to the ground into a portal that Kurogiri made. And with that, Shigaraki, Dabi, and Moonfish all jumped in, and Izuku was flying top speed to try and get to the portal, but it disappeared and he flew headfirst into the ground. It it was Izuku just felt something deep in his heart just sink, like he lost something important to him, because, well, he did. He looked around and it was just completely nothing there for him. Izuku was enraged. He started screaming in anger, and he was out of control. But he starts looking around and he sees it on the ground, from Moonfish's injury to her shoulder, some of Rias's blood. He crawled over to it and just licked it off the ground. The members of Class 1A were walking up to Izuku to try and console him, but it was too late. Due to his enraged state and the demon blood he consumed, he transformed into something above Juggernaut Drive. It was unstable. He resembled a dragon even more, and his neck stretched out like 5 feet and his tail was of similar length. Izuku began rampaging throughout the forest, tearing down trees, breathing white flames, and with One For All boosting him, he seemed unstoppable. And that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, if you like my content in general, why not subscribe? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.